Medical charts are densely layered ecosystems of symptoms, diagnoses, and complications. As a coder, your job is to translate this complexity into a highly precise dataset. To do this accurately, you often have to take disparate pieces of clinical information and merge them into a single, unified entity. This brings up a critical question in coding. Can a single alphanumeric code legally and accurately describe multiple, distinct aspects of a patient's condition? The answer is yes. This is accomplished through Guideline B.9, which governs the use of the combination code. Guideline B.9 serves as a mandatory protocol within the ICD-10-CM framework, dictating exactly how to consolidate clinical data. Mastering this specific rule delivers 3 direct benefits. It streamlines your daily workflow, improves your coding accuracy, and ensures compliance with reporting standards. Novice coders often follow the opposite instinct. Faced with a complex chart, their initial reaction is to unbundle the documentation by assigning a separate individual code to every single symptom they encounter. Listing too many independent codes distorts the clinical picture. It creates systemic risk by making related, intertwined conditions appear as entirely separate issues. Knowing how to deploy combination codes correctly is the dividing line between generating a clean, compliant claim and triggering a wave of system-wide rejections. A combination code functions as a designated container designed for specific clinical pairings. First, 2 related diagnoses occurring simultaneously. If a combined code exists, they merge into a single block. Second, a primary diagnosis and its resulting manifestation also consolidate into one reporting unit. Finally, a primary diagnosis and a specific complication will similarly fuse together. The architectural purpose of these 3 specific structures is to aggressively eliminate redundancy in the medical record. By merging these overlapping clinical elements, you drastically reduce the total volume of individual codes required on a single claim form. Recognizing these 3 specific clinical pairings within the physician's documentation is the mandatory first step you must take before you ever open your coding manual. Once you identify a potential pairing in the documentation, you must physically locate the consolidated code. You cannot guess a combination code exists. The manual demands a strict 2-step verification process. This visual highlights step 1. You start in the alphabetic index by locating your primary condition, represented here by the main term. Below that main term, you must scan all the indented subterms. These subterms are the structural indicators that point you toward a potential combination code. Finding the code in the index is only half the job. Step 2 requires you to move from the index to the tabular list for mandatory validation. Here, evaluate structural notes. An inclusion note expands to encompass related terms, confirming you have the correct code. Conversely, an exclusion note explicitly rejects pairings. If it blocks your scenario, that combination code is invalid. Skipping this tabular list validation is the single most frequent cause of coding errors. The alphabetic index points you in the right direction, but the tabular list and its specific inclusion and exclusion notes provide the absolute legal authority for assigning a combination code. This flowchart represents the core decision matrix. The central question is, does this code fully describe the documented condition? Following the yes path means the single code captures all documented elements. When this happens, the rule is strict. Do not assign extra codes for captured elements. To lock in this concept, we use the AMCI MJ-GEM mnemonic. One code if it tells the whole story. The whole story means the single code encompasses every related diagnosis and complication explicitly detailed by the provider for that specific condition. If the documentation contains elements not captured by that single code, the logic gate shifts to the missing detail path. This is the sole exception. If the combination code lacks specificity, you must attach a secondary code. When you do this, mandatory sequencing rules apply. The primary combination code must be listed first, and the additional detail code must be listed second. Knowing exactly when a single code suffices and when it falls short establishes a definitive boundary between clinical completeness and redundant overcoding. Ignoring these boundaries carry immediate consequences. The fundamental error coders make is unbundling, assigning multiple independent codes when the manual explicitly provides a single combination code for that exact scenario. This chart visualizes the result of unbundling. It artificially inflates the volume of codes on a claim, which automated audits flag as over-reporting, pushing the data past the threshold into a denied claim. The opposite error is failing to add a specificity code when the combination code lacks detail. This leads directly to underreporting the patient's true severity of illness. These workflow errors translate clinical inaccuracies directly into immediate compliance violations and severe financial denials for the provider. To prevent these errors, you must bring these rules together into a streamlined review process. Remember the core definition. A combination code utilizes one alphanumeric slot to capture multiple clinical elements. The workflow is rigid. Start in the alphabetic index, move to the tabular list, and validate the code against all inclusion and exclusion notes. Before finalizing the claim, ask yourself 2 questions. First, does this single code capture absolutely everything the physician documented regarding this condition? Second, or do I need to attach additional clinical detail to complete the picture? Ultimately, your approach is governed by one final guiding principle. If it's combined, don't divide. Mastering Guideline IB.9 transforms a novice coder into a highly efficient professional, capable of protracting the exact clinical reality of the medical record.